Hello and welcome to Game Joy, the video game podcast that puts joy first. My name is Johnny.
And my name is Jamie.
And we're going to talk to you about some games we've been playing, games we've been enjoying. And I just wanted to tell you a little anecdote that brought me some joy. Games adjacent, Jamie. I was emailing my favorite games writer, Chris Donlin, over in the UK. He's someone who was really generous to me when I was kind of trying to get into games journalism back when he was working at Eurogamer, and his kind of mentorship and helping me get a foot in the door is what helped publish my first Eurogamer article. But anyway, I was chatting with him and he was like, I love Seattle, and he's kind of my weirdly enough like impromptu Seattle tour guide, where he has told me about the public library building and he loves the architecture of it, and now I love the architecture of it. You can kind of see where this is going. Well, he was like, have you been to Freeway Park yet? And I was like, no, I have no idea what that is. He's more of a savant with downtown Seattle. We live up north, right? So I was downtown today getting lunch with a friend, and I was like, let me just try to stop by Freeway Park. I stopped by, I took some pictures, I sent them to him, and we just had a nice back and forth about it. It's a beautiful little park in the heart of the city. That brought me joy.
I'm so glad that brought you joy.
And now that I made you listen to that, how about you give a recap of last week?
Yeah, I just wanted to jump in here and say, if you're new here, if you didn't get the chance to listen to the last pod that we put out, and as you can probably tell, we have rebranded. We spoke about it on the pod last week about kind of our decisions, and yeah, I just decided that we would rather just have a bit more of a free form show where we focus more on the things bringing us joy each week and less so on just trying to bring new releases and try games out. We found ourselves playing some games that weren't really bringing us joy, and that reflecting on what we want out of life in this show. So here we are kind of with the first, I guess, official episode after having rebranded. So this will be the first time that we're really going free form, talking about what we've been up to, what's been bringing us joy game-wise, and really whatever else pops into our mind.
It's official. That was a very soundboardy comment. It seems like we have a number of different veins we can kind of explore this evening, and we should be able to get to all of them, but we have kind of our adventure game vein. We have some of the games that you've been streaming, and we have Slay the Spire 2, which is I've just played 2 runs, but I have also won 2 runs, not to brag. So,
let's go.
And one of them was multiplayer, so I do have some thoughts on that.
Yeah, I kind of figured in this show we would just each talk about what we've been up to games-wise, and some of them have been shared experiences. We've been both playing The Drifter. You finished it, and I would guess a little more than halfway through, maybe 75% the way through. So I figured we'd chat about some of those things, and then what we've been up to as individuals.
Yeah, should we start there at The Drifter? I mean, talk about a game that brings me joy. It's like the most inspirational one ever.
Yeah, I would love to hear more about how you felt about it, because during this week you kind of mentioned how much you loved it and how it spurred you to look more into adventure games, and I just want to hear more about that and the developer platform. I don't know if you would call it a platform that you discovered from it, and also the interview you have coming up.
Oh, yeah. So lots of the Drifter news coming out of Johnny Land, I suppose.
But no spoilers because
I won't.
Because I haven't finished it.
Yeah, I'm not going to talk. I figured you would do the most talking about the Drifter. I'm just talking about what the Drifter has spawned in me. So just to give a rundown of what the Drifter is, it's kind of a pulp action thriller style adventure game. Adventure game sounds like a really generic genre, but really what it's pointing to is this type of game that had its heyday in kind of the late 80s through the early 2000s, and LucasArts, oddly enough, was the company that was making the most of them when Tim Schafer was working there, the person who now heads up Double Fine. So some classic titles in the genre are like Monkey Island, Grim Fandango, and the like Day of the Tentacle, I think is what one is called. But they kind of have this like jokey, oftentimes like irreverent tone from that genre. And so those are the types of games that inspired Dave Lloyd, the person at Powerhoof, which is actually a two-person kind of team. It's Dave Lloyd and Barney Cumming. And Barney is like the pixel art master, and Dave is like the programming master. And so they team up and make games together in Australia. And anyway, that's a lot of preamble. They did like game jams, adventure jams for a number of years, and they made kind of pulp thrillers similar to The Drifter that were just like short bite-sized experiences that you can now find on their itch page for free. Or for Name Your Price, if you want to support them in addition to buying and playing The Drifter, which you definitely should do. But it's cool because you can kind of track the lineage of The Drifter in the games that they've created to date.
And that was something that you told me just last night, that the devs, or one of the devs, had created tons of adventure games prior to this. And I think it's fascinating, like, playing a game like The Drifter. The Drifter is so good, and we're probably going to talk more about that. It is astoundingly good and beautiful, and it's interesting looking at a game, and not when you don't know anything about the background or the developers, like, you can kind of think, how in the world would I make a game like this if I wanted to? Or how in the world does someone make a game like this that just seems to think of everything and to create itself in a way that almost anyone is going to enjoy. Like, it just feels like every aspect of it is perfect. And I can't tell if it's more reassuring or would be more demoralizing. Maybe it depends on the person to like know that was created from so many other games created before it. And it is just a reminder that, you know, everyone starts somewhere, and it takes the practice and the hours to create something beautiful. And granted, there are games out there from people and devs who haven't had as much behind it, but I guess it kind of shows that any great game can have any assortment of background and history behind it, whether it was a lot of other games that weren't as successful, perhaps, or was just, the initial game that seemed to catch. But it's fascinating. That kind of, I don't want to say surprised me, but it was a fun fact to hear that they had so many games they had created.
Yeah, I was interviewing a developer today for Indie Game Garden. His name was Mateus, and he's from Brazil. He's the developer behind The Last Lodge, which is also a game that we both played.
Oh, yeah.
And I really enjoyed it. I know you had some mixed feelings, but particularly like the style. Anyway, he was talking, he went from having like very little programming experience, like just having worked in Blender, basically, which is not programming, it's animation, to in 8 months publishing The Last Lodge.
I do think I remember reading or seeing that it was maybe their first game, or was just kind of them learning the ropes a bit.
Yeah,
which is very impressive.
Yeah, it's incredible. And one of the things that he was saying a lot today that really resonated with me, and I think is emblematic of your comment just then, is he said, you have to find the average between what you dream of doing and what you can do. Because if you just try to make what you dream of doing, you're not going to make a game ever, because you're going to get discouraged. But you also, so you need to be realistic while, you know, pushing yourself to learn new skills, etc.
Yeah, because if you're only striving for what you can do, you're not going to learn anything new. Like, you kind of have to strive beyond that and like try to get out of your comfort zone, but can't expect too much out of yourself. Yeah, I really like that.
Anyway, that's all to say that like Dave Lloyd, this person who's been like grinding to, I think, revitalize the adventure game genre. It's a genre that I said was really popular in the 90s, early 2000s, and then has since kind of fallen off to a degree. But it's just wild that there's this team of two folks in Australia, like, kind of single-handedly making the best adventure game ever, in my opinion. But yeah, I mean, more exciting news out of that is for Indie Game Garden, the other show I do where I interview folks in games, basically, mostly making small games. I'm going to interview Dave Lloyd, who is, you know, the basically creator of The Drifter, and then also Adrian Vaughn, who does the voice of Mick and a few other characters. So like the main voice. And I'm super thrilled about that. Super thrilled to talk more about the Drifter. Just story-wise, like no spoilers. It has so much to say about like time and like grief, while also being like this kind of action-packed mystery detective story, wonderful like thriller as well. And I don't know, I think it's beautiful.
Yeah, certainly. And I want to talk a little bit about, I guess, like adventure games or point and clicks and how I feel about them. But your comment on grief reminded me that I was listening to a streamer I like to watch today, and they're kind of talking about how many games relate to grief, or just kind of like how we relate to games and like what stories and games can do for us, and how grief tends to be something that is talked about or covered really kind of in all art forms. And it's kind of fascinating how that never really gets old. And I think it's because, and they were talking about this, how grief can look so different for so many people.
Mm-hmm.
But then also I feel like it's something that, like, it's something we can all relate to, but it's also something that looks different for everyone. But it's also something that being able to find companionship in grief and with grief, I feel like is one of the most important things for getting through it. So I feel like when a story portrays grief well, or like handles it well, or presents ways for us to relate to it, like that can be such a powerful tool.
Yeah, and I think the Drifter does just that. So
yeah,
just one of the many reasons I love it.
And then the other thing I kind of wanted to talk about, which I'm curious if you'll have thoughts on, is for me, I feel like the Drifter has been such a, pleasant surprise doesn't feel like enough of a phrase for it, because it's really been such an incredible game to play. But because I've never really considered myself one to like point and click games or adventure games. And the Drifter is making me realize that might just be because all the ones I've seen or interacted with have, I don't know if it's that they're bad, or if it just takes a great adventure game for me to want to play more of the genre. Because I feel like the Drifter has a great story. Its graphics are incredible. Like the way it frames the world and the art is really beautiful.
Yeah, it's stunning pixel art. Yeah, throughout.
Stunning. Yeah. And like the way they shape the world and change, like sometimes it's kind of a little more open worldy, and like sometimes it's more narrowly focused. And then the puzzles in the game are challenging, but also really cool. Like they get you to the point where when you're like, oh, wait, this is what I'm supposed to do, or like I can do this, you feel like the smartest person in the world.
Yeah.
Which I can't remember if we were listening to a podcast together. I remember listening to something where someone was like,
probably Into the Aether.
It might have been.
Maybe.
Where it's like, oh yeah, like the game is making you feel like you're smarter than the game. And that's kind of like the feeling it engenders with some of its puzzles. But I think sometimes I get bored with adventure or point and click games because it just feels like you're just reading dialogue, and there's not enough engagement for me to want to interact with it as a game format over just, I'm just like, I would just read a book, and I would have more content in written form that felt more engaging. And I feel like the Drifter balances everything in the interactivity, the puzzles, what you're discovering, the story, the imagery. So yeah, I don't know. Like, what are your thoughts on the adventure games and point and clicks, and bad ones, good ones? What makes a good one? If the Drifter is just great enough to surpass people's preferences, or if the other point and click games out there are just bad. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, so many thoughts. I mean, it's a varied question. I think the like first thing that comes to mind for me is I've been just thinking and talking a lot about games, doing episodes of the other podcast, Indie Game Garden. Reminds me of another conversation I had with the developer behind Asbury Pines, which is like a it's that incremental story game that I was playing. And he was talking about how freeing it was to write within a set of constraints, because he was the writer of the game and his partner was doing the programming.
Oh, interesting.
And the partner was like, okay, like I'm coming up with this idea for programming. Like it's going to be an idle game. We're going to have, 12 eras. There's going to be this many characters in each or whatever. And then the person I was talking to was like, it was actually wonderful to write within that context because it allowed me to like, it erased the fear of the blank page because there was more of a structure. And I think that for me, like the value of a great adventure game, certainly one like The Drifter, is that the player has ownership enough that they're like playing within a structure and it feels like they have agency enough. But it is not, you are always working toward, even if it's a wide funnel, you're always working toward one kind of choke point, and then it opens up again and then another choke point where you get the story. And I think so, as far as like from a composition standpoint, I imagine that is a really cool way to write a story as a developer. But I think it connects with us as players when the game is good, because you're feeling like the story could not have progressed without what you did.
Right,
and I
yeah.
think that for me is like the difference between like The Drifter and a visual novel like House in Fata Morgana, which is like you're just pressing X to like move the, story forward or what have you.
Right. And it feels like in that case, like you could just be turning on an auto movement and it would just go through the whole game for you.
Totally. And so I think like having that agency of like, I'm not me anymore. I'm Mick trying to pull this, tube out of an old washing machine to try to like make sure I have air later when I'm being drowned or what. Like it feels a lot more visceral in that sense. So we're more connected to the story and we're more pulled through. But as far as like other adventure games and what my like thoughts on them are about what makes a good one, I like the main thought I always have and I'm excited to express now that I'm kind of more into adventure games thanks to The Drifter is like the first game that got me back into like video games since when I was a kid playing Mario Baseball on the GameCube is The Last Express, which is like it was a game by Jordan Mechner, the person who did Prince of Persia, and it's an adventure game, not really similar stylistically to The Drifter, but it's a thriller as well. It happens on a train. It's kind of like Murder on the Orient Express, kind of adjacent, but more actiony, kind of like that smashed together with Indiana Jones. And my dad got it on the iPad and we like played it together over like a week when I was, I think, early high school. And that was something that I like love to do. And that's like a core memory and one that I will always cherish. But going back to the genre, I agree with you. Before The Drifter was like, I'm not really sure about this. Like, was it just kind of a flash in the pan? And also like I'm playing other adventure games now because I kind of like I have the itch now to reach the same heights as The Drifter. And I think going in with those expectations has shown me how special The Drifter is. Like I'm playing a game called Thimbleweed Park, which is done by the folks who made Monkey Island. So they're like the OGs, like they kickstarted this project. Like we're making one more game.
Have you played Monkey Island?
No.
Okay.
But so this is my first exposure to these old like LucasArts veterans. And it's good, but it's something I want to like pick at more than I want to like immerse myself in fully. Because the puzzles are a little bit more esoteric. Like you have to really grind on the puzzles if you don't want to like get a hint. And like try a lot of things and think outside of the box, which is good. The voice acting is not even on the same level at all as The Drifters. The art's really good. The art style is more cutesy. It's just like, and another thing that I think is really common in adventure games that don't connect with me as much is like the set of verbs or the way that you're interacting with the world feels clunky, but like it does in Thimbleweed Park, where it's more classic. Like you have a set of verbs, which is like pick up, use, talk to, open, push, pull.
Oh, yeah, when you kind of open a menu on an item.
It's there all the time.
It's
not
there
a
all
menu.
the time.
Yeah, so you click down there, you click an item, and then you click something, or, what have you. Whereas the Drifter has a really unique modern interface where you can, like, just put two items together, and Mick will be like, I make this thing, or it won't work. Or you can just, like, there's a lot less, like, clicking around and a lot less kind of fumbling around with the UI, which I think is really important in a game like that because it breaks immersion.
Yeah, and because I do feel like a lot of point and click games will be like you kind of hover over a person or an object or something like that, and it's like, look at it, use it, pick it up. Yeah, like it gives you all these options to present through for like almost any item. And yeah, the Drifter is pretty unique in that it doesn't show you those options. It instead just flips through different cursors, but you can't flip through them. It just shows you kind of like what you can do in that moment. So there's like an eyeball cursor, and that indicates when you can do this sort of like look at or investigate thing. And then there's like a pointer cursor for when you might be able to interact with it a bit more, and then there's a cursor for when you've pretty much exhausted all your options on stuff. And then I think maybe the only other one is the dialogue cursor for talking to people. So it really simplifies that interface and shows you more clearly what the potentially important thing is that you can do with an item, which just kind of seems ingenious. Like it's just so much a nicer way to interact with the story in the world. Yeah,
so the puzzles in Thimbleweed Park I constantly find are like using what verb on what thing at the right time in the right place, whereas with the Drifter it's like you know what you need, or you kind of know what you have to do. You're just more thinking about combining the thing or finding the thing or the sequence of events, which is so much more engaging. I think to someone, especially with like modern video game sensibilities, I think a lot of the reason adventure games struggle in the modern eye is that their heyday was at a time when video games were just in a different place as far as like accessibility. Like people who were playing were diehards and wanted to be like pulling out their hair about these puzzles or like finding every little idiosyncrasy, and like that's not where we are now. And the Drifter does such a good job, and I'm excited to talk to Dave Lloyd about this. Such a good job, in my opinion, of like celebrating the genre's past while pushing it forward, because it tells this sweeping story in this beautiful pixel art style that is, reminiscent of, it is better, but it's like reminiscent of some of the art styles they would have used back then, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, one of the things I'm really excited to talk to him about is how he views like celebrating the genre while pushing it forward.
Yeah, I'm really excited to listen to your interview with them. I feel like it'll be really cool to see. I would just love to hear, what they did intentionally to create the game, because it feels like such an intentional game, and I would love to hear about that. And then my other thought, kind of from what you were talking about, is that like I feel like the Drifter feels like kind of a scavenger hunt in a way. Like you kind of know what you're looking for, but also don't, and you're like finding more items. Whereas I feel like sometimes with other point and click games, it doesn't, like it's more obscure. I guess.
Yeah. It's harder to know what you can and can't pick up, what you're looking for, what to do next. Yeah.
Which I guess, like you said, some of the diehards, that's what they want. But for someone like me or potentially us that aren't diehards for the genre, the Drifter does it right to cater to, I think, more people, or like you said, the time we're in now.
Yeah, and to be clear, like I like Thimbleweed Park. I'm probably gonna try to finish it. It's just more of like a gradual like pick through it, and I might look at guides or something at some points. But some other cool, or I guess one other cool adventure game I want to mention is the Crimson Diamond, which is a slightly different style. It's kind of more retro looking, but it was a game that came out, I think, solo woman developer. And I've heard really good things. I got it in the spring Steam sale along with some other adventure style games that I'm excited to play and report on here. So Keep an eye out for that. I would also recommend like looking at Powerhoof's itch.io page to you, Jamie, but also to listeners if like you're not sure if you want to, invest the money on the Drifter, but you definitely should. Or if you've played the Drifter and are looking for more, like there's so many cool projects on the Powerhoof itch page.
I imagine I'll be eager to take a look at that after I finish the Drifter, just to see more of the history and what went into creating this beautiful game.
There's a game on there that I think would absolutely crush your vibe, which is Telwinium, which is like a high fantasy adventure game with like really vibrant colors. Yeah,
that sounds like my stuff.
Yeah, I agree. So that's the Drifter, that's adventure games. I feel like I did a lot of talking in this segment, so I would love to hear now more about the games you've been streaming, Jam.
Yeah, so I mean, I've been playing the Drifter as mentioned, so that's one of the things I've been up to this week games wise. Last Thursday, which would have been the day after we recorded last week's pod, I wrapped up Esoteric Ebb, which had a really nice ending. I kind of like grinded through 6 hours of play to finish it up. I kind of hit the 4-hour mark and I was like, I feel like I'm so close and the story is hitting its climax right now. Like I want to finish. I want to get through this. And it ended up, wrapping up to be, I think, a really nice and beautiful ending. I talked about Esoteric Ebb a bit last week, but I'm really glad I played it. It, again, was kind of another one of those games that I didn't really think I'd want to get through or get as engaged in. And I actually even now find myself thinking about potentially jumping back in with another play to try to explore through some of the paths and branches and characters that I didn't get to see. Like I saw, I think it was a YouTube short of someone finding a cat that they could pet in the game. I was like, I didn't see the cat. I didn't find the cat. Now I want to go back in and find the cat. Talk to the cat, pet the cat.
Cute.
So it's definitely, one of those games where you can miss a lot on one play, but that means everyone's playthrough is different. So I'm also kind of eager to maybe find some videos or streams of other people who played it and get to watch along, because I think that would also be a fun way to engage with the game. And then, so after that, I wanted to just do like a little palate cleanser game, and I had seen someone recommend a newly released game called Haunted Lands. So it came out on March 10th, 2026. So this month, at least at the time of this recording. And it was kind of funny. I took a look at it, and it's like a very, very retro vibe, pixels, graphics, and the person who had shared the game spoke really highly of it. And then one of the things I usually immediately check for on Steam reviews is what the reviews are like, because usually at that point there's only 100, 200 reviews, and if it's mixed, usually that's a pretty good sign. I feel like that it won't be a good game. And so this game had like right now it has a 78% of 147 reviews on Steam, which typically would be an immediate no for me. I'd just like toss it off. But I started reading some of the reviews, and a lot of them were just talking about people not liking it because the game is so difficult, and that being kind of the good thing about the game, or like what the game's going for. So it's kind of described as an ode to the past, I guess, of older games that were super difficult and that you had to kind of figure out how to be perfect within, and you can't save, like you have to hit save points. You can't just save whenever you want, and it's challenging and it's hard, and it's like difficult platforming, difficult combat, difficult bosses, but it is supposed to kind of engender that feeling of, I don't know, that competitive side that
Sweat.
Gets you sweaty, gets your adrenaline going. You like are grinding through it. You're repeating runs, trying to get through.
You're eating a lot of pizza. You're becoming
right. You've got your Mountain Dew bottle next to you.
You're wearing jeans. You're wearing a sweater vest.
Exactly. So I was curious to try it, and there's also still a part of me that wants to keep checking in with some newly released games. So I decided to get it. I decided to try it for the palate cleanser, and I'm loving it.
That's great.
I think it's so good. Did I mention the name? It's called Haunted Lands. But I want to read the Steam store description, because I think that'll kind of paint a picture for it. So Haunted Lands, the description is: slay grim cultists, infernal minions, and nightmarish creatures in this dark and bloody retro-inspired action platformer. uncover secrets, acquire powerful artifacts, and face challenging bosses in the haunted lands. And there's like a setting in the game when you first pull it up where you can make it look like what are they called? CRTV?
CRT TV.
CRT TV.
Cathode ray tube.
So you can like turn on a setting to make it look like that, which I 100% did. I'm all here for the vibes.
Yeah, that's a pretty big thing these days.
Yeah.
Like a lot of roguelites are doing that too.
Yeah. Which I kind of like. I feel like, you know, if you're going for a retro vibe and look, just might as well lean in all the way. But you essentially have like a few different characters that you can pick, and you're going on different missions. I haven't gotten very far. The first mission is you just like are going to an old mansion where there are cultists and zombies and weird monsters that you have to destroy, and you're trying to, I guess, like cleanse the place or clear the place. And even though the game is, I feel like, combat focused and pixel graphics and retro, it feels like there's so much intention in the graphics. And it's kind of funny because a lot of that comes in the form of blood and gore. Like you destroy some of the creatures and like you see their like head explode off and their guts are all over the place and whatnot. But then also in some of the level design, like there are little details, like it's raining outside and you're in an attic and there's like a drizzle of rain falling through on the screen in front of you, or you kind of get to a different area and it's like suddenly it's raining and the colors have shifted a little bit. And I don't know, just within the pixel graphics, I feel like there's a lot of attention to detail. And then also it's challenging and demands respect in a way that makes, I feel like, the player want to rise to that challenge. You know, I feel like a few weeks ago we played that game, Rightfully Bury Arms.
Oh, yeah.
And I felt like it was difficult in a way that didn't feel rewarding. Like I just felt no desire to rise to the challenge it presented. And Haunted Lands, I think, is kind of the opposite end of that spectrum, where it's challenging in a way that makes you want to rise to the occasion. And I don't know, I've just been really enjoying it. It's currently $5 on Steam too, and I've put maybe 6 hours into the game or so on stream, and it says I'm only 3-4% the way through the game. So I think it's a very big game.
34 or 3.4?
3 or 4. 3%.
3 or 4% into the game.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it seems like a lot of those hours were spent like retrying the same boss, right?
Yeah, and yeah, I spent an hour trying to get through the first, and I don't even think it's like the main boss. I think it's like a mini boss. But hear me out.
I mean, that just speaks to your perseverance. It sounds like a horribly difficult game.
Well, the boss wasn't even, I mean, it was challenging, but the only reason I was in that place was because like you have lives throughout the level and it's hard to get more lives, and I had ended up in that boss room with no extra lives left. So if I had played it a little bit better beforehand, or I could have restarted the level and tried to get to that point again with more lives, and it would have been a lot easier.
Oh, you were being stubborn.
But I was being stubborn.
I can't imagine that.
Yeah.
Well, amazing. I'm glad you found a game you liked.
Yeah, it's really fun. I mean, I love a good platformer. I love a good challenge. So it really has been like the perfect palate cleanser for me between some story-driven games. And I feel like I do need to stop calling it a palate cleanser, because I feel like I'm going to put a lot more hours into it and it's just going to become another game project.
Hell yeah.
But we'll see.
Well, tell me about going Gremlin mode on Clair Obscur as well. You're sweating all over the place this week.
Yeah, I mean, that Clair Obscur is just a game that, I mean, I do want to finish it. It's such an incredible game, like everyone talks about. Like, it is what everyone says it is. But I had started Clair Obscur a while ago, like over the summer, before we really started any of our, when the podcasting was just a dream and I hadn't even like thought about streaming or YouTube at all.
Thinking about me, thinking about us. What we gonna be? You know that song?
Uh-huh.
It's like
it's like that, yeah.
Just a dream.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway,
continue. I mean, that like embodies the
Clair Obscur?
No.
Oh.
Just how the podcast felt to us at that time. It just felt like a song drifting in the wind.
What if Nelly was a playable
A
character
loose
in Clair
bag.
Obscur?
That'd be something.
Continue on.
I'm close to the end of Clair Obscur, I think, but I'm in kind of the mode where it feels like the game's encouraging you to go and do like all the side quests and all the side fights that you have. So the other night I was full Gremlin mode and was just repeating a battle again, just like Haunted Lands. I guess I'm in that mood this week, repeating a battle over and 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 over.
I think I'll stop you there. And I mentioned Chris Donlin earlier in the podcast, my favorite games writer. I have a recommendation. It's not a game. It's free. It's a newsletter. It's called The Bathysphere. Bathy Sphere. And it's just like 3 veteran game writers, Chris Donlin and a few of his colleagues, and they just write like a very short newsletter every few weeks or so. And I think it's wonderful. And meanwhile, Jamie was still saying over
and then
there.
over and over and over and over and over.
Jamie, any other games you wanted to talk about?
I think that's been kind of all that's been on my radar right now or going on right now. I mean, I say all, but it's like I finished Esoteric Ebb.
That's a lot.
I started Haunted Lands. I'm moving forward with The Drifter. I'm progressing on Clair Obscur. So I feel like I have a lot on my docket right now. And my plan after I hit a point that I want to move on with Haunted Lands or finish Haunted Lands is to then move on to a game called Soma, which I haven't actually done that much research into entirely what it's about. I think it's like a psychological thriller sci-fi game, potentially. I don't remember when it released, but I kind of like doing that with games where if I get a recommendation and the very initial vibe checks out for me, I really like diving in with pretty much no concept of what's going on. I think it's just one of my favorite things to get surprised by a game and discover what a game is about. So that's my plan for kind of the next game I'll jump into, but you never know how that might change.
Sounds good. And just to close the book on the Drifter, you mentioned Power Quest, which is the tool that Dave Lloyd uses to make the Drifter, and a lot of his other adventure games, he was working on it for like 10 years and then released it to the public. And what it is it's just a Unity plugin. So it like downloads a bunch of packages that fit into Unity and make it a more friendly engine if you're trying to make a 2D adventure game. And I was poking around in there. It's really cool.
Yeah, I kind of want to peep over your shoulder when you're working in there sometime. You mentioned it and it made me curious what it's like, what it looks like.
Unity's free to download, and so is Power Quest, so you could also do it yourself. I think you'd pick it up way faster than me with your coding background, but it's cool. It's like anything with game dev or trying to make your own game is never like just one click and it works, or like using your mouse or what have you. Like it's all, you can't avoid programming, so it's not like, you know, a panacea if you don't want to code, but it does a great job of simplifying the code to a point where it feels a lot more intuitive. So like if you need to get a character to do something, the script is just like C dot, and then you see all the character commands and like,
oh, that's nice.
Yeah, it's like, and when you want to write dialogue, you just like write the character's name and a colon, and you can just write. You don't need like any of the strings or like, it's very simplified. So it was heartening to look at that and be like, this still seems like wild that this is like a super simplified version of Unity, but it's something I'm excited to poke around in more.
Yeah, it seems a bit more readable.
Totally. That's a good way to put it. Here's another coding term, decoupled.
No.
You like that?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm rubbing my hands together. Anyway, I think the only thing to talk about in this episode to go is maybe Slay the Spire 2. Is there anything else you wanted to hit on?
I've covered all my notes.
Okay, yeah, I'll go quick on Slay the Spire 2 because it was like huge in games media, obviously, that it dropped in early access recently. Everyone's saying like it's mostly more of the same. Still a good game. A lot of people could probably put thousands of hours into this and will. All that stuff is true.
I mean, with a game like Slay the Spire, I don't really see how they could make something that different. Like it does seem like a game that its second version would just be like almost a DLC in a way, where it's just expanding on what already exists.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard a lot of conversations asking like, could they have just made it DLC? I think like the thing is like the whole art style is updated. Like all the stuff is drawn anew. There are some different mechanics. That was our dog groaning, by the way.
I'm sure that came through on the mics.
Oh, 100%. Thanks, Kat. Thanks for being on the show. Anyway, all new drawn stuff, which is pretty. It's not like particularly pretty, but it's pretty. I mean, I shouldn't say it's not particularly pretty. It's just like it's not so far from the first game's art style, but it's updated. All the enemy types are updated, so like you're not facing any of the enemies you faced in the first game, as far as I've seen. Like I said, I've only played a couple hours of it. 2 new characters, still in early access. I imagine there'll be more. So there is a lot of new cards, even in the decks of the characters that are from the first game. So yeah, I mean, could they have built this into the first game? I'm sure, but there's enough there that I think. And especially enough new features, especially the multiplayer, which I just want to shout out as like, I would say I have few friends who are as interested in games as me, but I have so many friends who like playing Slay the Spire, and to be able to like play with them now, especially since like I'm in Seattle, a lot of my friends are in the East Coast, like that is such a gift. And so I'm excited to dig in more with them. It's a good game. I'll probably play it on my plane ride coming up tomorrow. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
How do you feel about it having come out in early access?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's one of the things that I heard them talking about on the MinMax show is like they feel privileged that they're able to like buy it early and see like some of the best game developers they've ever seen, in their opinion, like tweak something right before their eyes. I'm not sure if I'm that like glowing about it. It's more just like, I mean, it's really good now, and I would have bought it when they released 1.0, so I'm happy to like help them tweak it, I guess. Yeah.
Interesting.
That's how I feel about it. It's like if I can play Slay the Spire 2 now, like, yeah, I really like it, so I will.
Huh.
It's also been an interesting comparison point to Meowgenics, which is what we're calling it, the new Ed McMillan game, because I think a lot of that game is like meant to kind of gross you out, make you feel weird, make you think about like the world, death, like a lot of things that feel kind of like crusty and weird, birth, actual eugenics in the world, which like horribly is still like a thing people think about in some parts of the world, and certainly in our own country in certain heinous pockets of it. But like comparing that and all the things that Meowgenics has to say to Slay the Spire 2 is really interesting, because Slay the Spire 2 is just like, we're giving you the slickest deck building roguelike you can imagine. Yeah, and Eugenics is like, I'm purposefully making you like squirm, and here's a good game too.
Yeah, it is so funny. I do envision them in the same like pocket and realm, and for them to have released so close to each other, it is kind of funny thinking about how much I group them together in my mind. And granted, I haven't played either of the two, but yeah, how much I group them together, but yet how different they are.
I mean, it's a completely different approach to the genre, and it's wild that they are like the two most, probably most played roguelikes now on Steam. So
yeah, certainly.
I imagine Slay the Spire 2 is blowing Meowgenics out of the water, but
you think so?
That would be my guess. I mean, they
I would
sold
be curious.
3,000 copies in their first week. Or sorry, not 3,000, 3 million. Slay the Spire 2 did.
Dang.
And it's in early access. So at 1.0, it's going to be like probably millions and millions and millions more.
Do you think so? I mean, I do imagine there are a lot of people holding out for 1.0.
Do, especially because it's only on PC right now. Oh. And at 1.0, it's going to drop on mobile. It's going to drop on Switch 2. It's going to drop on all the other platforms. So,
wow.
Yeah, I'm positive it's going to sell millions more. It's pretty wild.
I didn't know Slay the Spire was that beloved.
It is a phenomenon.
Wow.
Yeah. So.
That feels a little tough for me.
Why?
Well, because like I feel like I enjoyed it.
Mm.
And if
You're
Slay
gonna
the
dunk on
Spire,
it.
no,
Let's go, Jamie.
it's just like a self-reflection moment.
Dunk on that thing.
I'm no dunking. The only dunking is happening on myself because, like, I guess I just am not that into deck builder roguelites likes.
Yeah.
Which, like, we kind of...
Yeah, we've established
We've
that.
established that. We've kind of known that. But, you know, it makes me reflect on talking about the Drifter, which was able to pull me out of my maybe I'm not a point-and-click adventure gamer.
True.
And
There's
if
a
Slay
deck
the
builder out there for you.
Maybe.
It's Griftlands. You
Maybe.
gotta get in there.
But if Slay the Spire is supposed to be the top of the top, so beloved,
Yeah.
and I mean, I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
But it wasn't like...
I will say, like, it is so beloved, but it's also, like, trying to be the mainstream deck builder one game. And so, like my friend Cole, who I played with last night, like, doesn't really play other games. You know, like, he just had 2,500 hours in Slay the Spire.
Yeah, that's wild.
And so, like...
So maybe, like, it's just too mainstream for me.
That's what I'm saying. It's like
I just need something a little more indie.
Maybe you're a hipster indie gal,
Yeah.
and there are so many deck builders for you out there, Jamie.
Yeah.
I do think you should try Griftlands. It's one of my favorites. If you want to try again.
Because I am thinking, like, maybe a game with a little bit more of a story behind it.
Griftlands. That's exactly what it is.
Because there's a part of me that's like, you know, I'm a story girl. I like having a story, but then I also have enjoyed some platformers that have no story. I mean, Haunted Lands doesn't have any sort of story.
Griftlands.
All right. Griftlands will go on my list.
You should stream it. That'd be fun. A lot of people still probably don't know about it. It kind of slipped under the radar a little bit when it came out. I think it came out like years ago. So
I'm putting it on my games list right now. My list is growing on games I might record or stream, but I will put Griftlands on there.
Okay. Well, with that, folks, we're ending on the most hopeful most hopeful note I've heard in weeks. Jamie might play Griftlands, and all is right in the world. Thank you for listening, and we will talk to you next time we talk to you. We might have some weeks off coming up. We're both doing a little bit of traveling, but Jamie and I will work that out, and we'll be back with you certainly by sometime in April, if not before then.
Yeah, which, I mean, if we are traveling, it does mean we will have less time to game. You might be gaming just the same amount because of your Steam Deck. I don't know what I'll be doing because I mostly have been playing on my PC lately. So whatever happens, happens.
Yeah, I play all my games on my Steam Deck, so I'm about to get it all in on these flights.
Yeah, that's funny. You're probably like, I'm going to get so many hours in while I'm out of town. And then I look at my travel time as being like, I'm not going to play anything. I still have to finish 9 Souls.
Wow, yeah, you're gonna be dipping into some interesting territory. I'm excited.
Okay, I know we were just kind of closing out, but it was interesting in my Gremlin mode with Clair Obscur last night. It is, I was struggling with all the parrying, like coming back to the game for a while, and then Gremlin mode, I was locked in.
Hell yeah!
And I was just reflecting on how it really takes some repetition to get good at some games, and like you have to be doing it pretty consistently, because if you take a step back and then like come back in, you kind of have to like re-pick it all up again.
Totally. I was just listening to Into the Aether. I'm like starting from the beginning, which I've never done, so I'm in like 2018, and they're talking about like in one of the first episodes they've ever did, they're talking about like competitive Smash, Super Smash Brothers, and I'm sitting
in
there
another
thinking,
dimension, like, I got into competitive Smash.
Yeah, I feel like I see it for you. But for me, I'm like, I would not consider myself even close to the same category as the folks who like get so much out of that, and that's like their one game. I don't know. It's just so fascinating and it brings me joy that there are so many places for folks who play games in this world. And we hope you're finding yours, dear listener. Thanks for sticking with us so far. And like we said, we'll talk to you when we talk to you next. Thanks.
Love y'all. Bye.